What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg, and we just got done watching what I believe will be the Eastern Conference Finals between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons. Tonight, the Cavs won in Cleveland, 113-109. Obviously, there was no Donovan Mitchell in the game tonight, and Jared Allen went out with an injury. Hopefully, it's not too serious. It was his knee, so that always is concerning, but we'll see with some of the results as they come out. But I still think, even though there was no Donovan Mitchell, we learned something from this basketball game. In the James Harden era, the Cavs now move to 7-1 when he is on the court. In January, the Cleveland Cavaliers were a play-in team. Since then, they have the best record in the NBA and have really turned things around. You could feel the energy of the crowd tonight. They knew it was a big game. These two teams played a week and a half ago. The Detroit Pistons won that game 122-119 in overtime. That game also had no Donovan Mitchell, but they also didn't have James Harden for the Cavs. I am someone who believes that the Cleveland Cavaliers will represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals this season. I think they check every box that you could hope for as far as having multiple playmakers, the ability to do a lot of things well on the court, and what I really wanted to see was, would they be able to defend post-trade? Well, what we've seen is Keon Ellis has added a lot of defensive presence. James Harden is just a bigger body than Darius Garland, and Dennis Schroeder has attacked on the perimeter. It's really added some versatility to this Cavs roster and more depth. This wasn't the most impressive game from the superstars from either team, but the Cavs still were able to pull the game out in a game that the Cavs need, as they're a game and a half out of the 3 seed behind the Knicks, and I believe it was 2 or 2.5 games behind the Boston Celtics in the 2 seed. Before we get into it, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. We just passed 1,300 subscribers. We are grinding NBA content. Just got this new microphone, so let me know how it sounds. If there's any issues with it, I'm still trying to make adjustments. So tonight, like I said, the Cavs won 113-109. They led the game for 90% of the ball game. This was despite the fact that the Pistons won the game in almost every other statistical category besides final points. The Pistons shot better from the field, 51% to 44% from the Cavs. They shot better from 3, 38-37. They out-rebounded the Cavs, 44-38. They had more assists, blocks, and steals. They also had more points in the paint and fast break points. But ultimately, the difference in the game is the fact that the Detroit Pistons are a mediocre to poor three-point shooting team in modern basketball, and I think that that's what will ultimately be their downfall this particular year in the playoffs. The Cavs have the ability to score in so many ways because of their two big men. James Harden on the perimeter, he obviously can score in that mid-range floater. Donovan Mitchell can score in a variety of ways. You know, both Jared Allen and Evan Mobley can score from the mid-level in, and, Evan Mobley's kind of working on that three-point shot. And then they have other players like Jaylon Tyson, who can hit the three ball. He's 5 of 12 from 3 tonight. He actually was the leading scorer for the Cavs with 22 points. The Cavs have the ability to beat you in so many different ways, and they also at all times are going to have 2 shot creators on the court: James Harden, Dennis Schroeder, or Donovan Mitchell. Before this trade, that was not the case. They hoped it would be Lonzo Ball, and I think it's one of the things they lost early in this season, losing Ty Jerome. You thought you were replacing him with Lonzo being able to run the offense when Donovan Mitchell was off the court, or Darius Garland being injured. But when one of those guys were off the court, it made it to where there was so much pressure on Donovan Mitchell to do everything for this basketball team. And now with the additions of Harden and Schroeder, and obviously Keon Ellis has added a lot to the offense, but those two guys in particular, you have multiple playmakers, and that's kind of the opposite of what the Pistons have. With Harden and Mitchell on the court, the Cavs offense is 16.5 points per game, or per 100 possessions, better than league average. So we've seen that those two guys can play at a very high level together. And one of the reasons you bring in a guy like James Harden is in the games that Donovan Mitchell is, if he has to miss a game, whether it's in the playoffs or in the regular season, go through a stretch without Donovan Mitchell, James Harden can really elevate the rest of the offense and continue to flow and still be competitive in games. And you're obviously playing the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and you're able to find a way to win the basketball game. Jared Allen finished the game with 8 points, 3 rebounds, but we know that he obviously he left with an injury early, so he didn't get to finish this game. But we know that he has been phenomenal since the James Harden trade, and that has had so much value because of what James Harden consistently does for big men. You can feel the energy of this Cavs team when you watch the games. Whether you're at the game or whether you're watching on the TV, you can feel the energy of the crowd, and it's like this team didn't really believe in itself for the first few months of this season. Sometimes when you have the same core for a long time and you don't have significant changes, it can start to feel like what's going to be different this year than has happened in the previous seasons. But now when the organization makes a move for an older player like Harden and, Schroeder and Ellis, they're clearly telling the players that we believe that this roster is good enough to compete for a championship. And a lot of people were critical of the fact that James Harden is not a great playoff, has had some playoff woes, I guess I'd say. And that's why you'll hear a lot of people in the media not picking this Cavs team to win the Eastern Conference. The more sexy pick is going to be the Knicks. Obviously, media loves the Knicks in general. But then the Celtics when they get Jason Tatum back. And then this Pistons team has had a really excellent season. They're the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But a lot of people still don't believe in the Cavs because of those Harden playoff woes. I am someone that believes that they're a little overstated. Obviously, he made the finals when he was with KD and Russ. If you want to discount that a little bit because he was a 6th man at the time, whatever. With the Rockets, they were a phenomenal team. In the year that they had Chris Paul, they were going to beat the KD Steph Warriors before Chris Paul hurt his hamstring in game 5 or 6, whatever game it was. But they would have beat that team, I believe, because they played really well in game 7 to start the game and then had a historically cold shooting stretch. Obviously, Harden has had some bad playoff moments. But if you look at certain moments that can define a player's career, if Kevin Durant's toe is a couple inches behind that 3-point line against Milwaukee that year that the Bucks won the championship, the Nets may win that series. Then they would have played the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they win that, they play the Suns in the NBA Finals, and you would think that Kyrie would have came back healthy at that point. So Harden has been right knocking on the door of an NBA Finals and NBA Championship so many times that I just think it's overstated his struggles in the playoffs. And it's why I believe that he was still capable of helping a team get over that hump. And now at this stage in his career, he passes the ball so well that, his teammates can also help lift him up. You have Donovan Mitchell, who has had some excellent playoff moments, especially that series against the Denver Nuggets, and Jamal Murray. Go back and watch that series if you want to watch some of the greatest shot making you'll ever see. But I am super excited to watch this Cleveland Cavalier team in the playoffs this year. So Evan Mobley had 18, 5, and 4 tonight. James Harden, 18, 7, and 5. He didn't have the best night, 5 of 17 from the field. Sam Merrill had 9. Jaylon Tyson had 22. Dennis Schroeder had 15. Thomas Bryant had 9 off the bench. Craig Porter Jr. had 7. And Keon Ellis had 7. This Cleveland Cavalier team has great depth. And obviously they're playing a team in the Detroit Pistons that has had an awesome season, has multiple All-Stars. Jalen Duren tonight at 24 and 14. We know he's a monster. If you're a Pistons fan, man, you gotta love watching that guy play. He's been one of my favorite guys to watch in the NBA this season. His physicality as a big man has been highly impressive. Cade Cunningham really struggled tonight, 4 of 16 from the field. And one of the the Pistons have 2 major problems in my opinion. One, they don't have enough shot creators. It feels like there's so much pressure on Cade Cunningham to do everything for this offense. And if there's a night that he's off, like tonight or the other night when they were playing, I believe it was the Spurs that he really struggled. It feels at times like nothing else is happening on the offensive end of the court. And the bigger problem with that is the fact that this Pistons team is not great at shooting threes. So when you're playing against a team that has really good rim protection, which I think we've seen when they played the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama, and tonight playing Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, when you're playing a team that has really good rim protection, I think that this Pistons team can really, really struggle, and it takes them out of where they're most comfortable, which is scoring in the paint and playing physical basketball, drawing fouls, all those sorts of things. Obviously, Duncan Robinson can shoot the three ball, but the rest of their starting lineup, Asar Thompson, not a three-point shooter. Jalen Duren, obviously, big man, doesn't shoot the three ball. Tobias Harris was 1 of 3 tonight. He just doesn't shoot a whole lot of them. And Cade Cunningham, he's a good three-point shooter. He's pretty efficient for the most part. But that's in the modern NBA, that's not a ton of great three-point shooters. And tonight they only shot 24 of them in comparison to the Cavs shooting 46. So a lot is talked about the modern NBA and how important the three ball is. Well, when you're getting the volume of the Cavs hitting 8 more threes in a game, that is a lot of extra points that makes it tough for a Pistons team to come back, even if they do rebound better or, steal, block, winning the fast break points, all those different dynamics. If the Cavs are going to shoot and hit 8 more three-pointers than you, it's really hard to win that basketball game. So all in all, if you're a Pistons fan, the sky's not falling. I just think that you're a little bit of a flawed basketball team. You have a ton of talent, but you do have flaws. But when you look around at the Eastern Conference, that does feel like a lot of these teams. The Knicks started the season hot, had an awful stretch for 3 weeks. I think they went like 2-9, and then they've been really good since then. Their consistency feels like an issue, and Karl Anthony Towns, sometimes it doesn't feel like all these guys play together. I don't believe in the Knicks, if I'm being honest with you. And then the Celtics, you don't know, is Jason Tatum coming back? How's his chemistry going to fit in? And to me, it comes down to these two basketball teams, the Cavs and the Pistons, who's coming out of the Eastern Conference. And if you ask me right now, I would pick the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that they are so dynamic on the offensive end of the court, but also have the ability to play good defense with their big men and some of the additions that they made. All in all, super excited to watch the rest of this season. There's so much to look forward to. And I think we are going to have a playoffs that could have a tremendous amount of parity, that we don't know who's going to win going into it. And that's one of the things that I love about these last few years of basketball, is when you go into the playoffs, it feels like these series really matter and each game matters, and you don't just have teams sweeping through the playoffs and easily winning. Last year, the Indiana Pacers came out of the Eastern Conference and had the Thunder in Game 7 before Halliburton popped his Achilles. So I can't wait to watch the rest of this NBA season. If you do enjoy NBA content, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all watching. Cyborg out.